Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results. Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast on what is today in Australia, the 4th of July. So in the US, it is currently the 3rd of July.
That's right.
And I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by a man today who, when you hear this man speak, you might be, where does he actually come from? I'm not going to say he's a man not knowing who his identity is, but he knows exactly who he is. Mr. Michael Dodsworth, coming in from LA. How are you, my friend?
Thank you very much. I'm very well. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm a mixed bag. I'm very confused internally. But yeah, Independence Day is definitely a strange holiday for me as a Brit in the US. Try and keep myself to myself, keep my head down. But yeah, it's great to be here.
Looking forward to this. And as we were talking before, you said often when you talk back to people back in the motherland, they think, oh, you sound very American. And then when you talk to Americans, they probably think, Josh, where are you actually from?
Yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic at this point. I don't have a home. Yeah, my family don't recognize my voice. It takes me a while to adjust wherever I am. And yeah, just the words, the terms, everything's different, but the language is the same. So it's a very strange situation.
It's interesting, though. So what you're saying, Michael, is potentially you could be undercover. You could be working undercover somewhere.
Well, we're keeping it quiet here. Like there's this is not the administration to be saying that kind of stuff out loud.
No, that's right. But we're hopefully going to help you explode with Fanfare. So
That.
you are the founder and CEO of Fanfare.
That's right.
And you spent over 2 decades helping brands and artists navigate high stakes product launches and events. And you've been there, done that. And you're telling me before you're in the middle of a big launch and lots of work happening. So love to explore all things around differentiation, how organizations are really in a highly commoditized market, a highly competitive market. What are they doing to try to differentiate themselves and really grab the attention of their buyers? Before we jump into all of that, because I know you've got stories and you shared with a couple of them before we press record, which I'm sitting there still scratching my head thinking, people buy $200 cookies? Well, apparently they do.
That's right.
We might jump into that
on a weekly basis.
Oh my goodness. Michael, I'd love for the listeners' benefit just to give a bit of background on yourself and specifically what led you and got you into the business that you're now running. And was it something that just evolved over time, or was there a point in time that said, wow, this is the trajectory I'm now going on?
Yeah, actually, there were multiple forks in the road. And some of them led me to be in LA right now. Some of them led me to be founding Fanfare right now. So maybe we can jump back all the way back to Northern England 40-ish years ago. So I come from northeast of the UK. You can't tell from my accent, it is a mess. But I started my life as an engineer. So I actually... my brother brought home a Commodore 64 one day, and I was kind of hooked from then on. University in Manchester, moved down to London to work, and that's where I joined the first startup I'd worked at, which was this tiny little content management service called Coral that was based just outside of London. And fast forward 6 months into that project, we were scooped up by Salesforce. So the whole team was lifted up and transported over to San Francisco, which was not a difficult sell for Salesforce at all. And from there, worked on some really gnarly issues of scales at Salesforce. So huge platform growing really quickly and just enormous traffic volumes and all kinds of interesting problems to solve there. Spent a few years there working on some of those gnarly distributed systems problems. Moved just down the road to a place called Optimizely, which is kind of a company that was going through kind of adolescence, I would like to say. Like they were growing quickly. They had really interesting issues. And that's when someone from LA came up to San Francisco to talk me through Rival, which was the company I joined in LA. And I mean, we were a little bit on the nose with the company name. We
Okay.
were in the live events industry, targeting the likes of Ticketmaster,
Yeah.
and joined as the founding engineer there, and saw some really horrible consumer issues in live event ticketing. Like we've all been through those pains of trying to get, like, you look like a Swiftie there, Darren, but whether it's Taylor Swift, whether it's Oasis, whoever it is, like we've all been through that pain of multiple tabs open,
Yeah.
the solving the captures, looking at the spinner going round on a call with a bunch of our friends also trying to do the same thing. And then all of the pain around that consumer experience, the bots, the bad
Yeah.
actors grabbing tickets, selling them on secondary market. Like it's a bad experience. We solved for that arrival. We were looking to roll out, and then fast forward to the start of the pandemic, we were scooped up by Ticketmaster, of all
Wow.
people. So found myself at Ticketmaster, spent a few months there, and then I kept seeing this same issue of scarcity and issues around hype commerce again and again, like not just inside of live ticketing, but
Mm.
also in, the PS5 going on sale, the Switch 2 going on sale, like any kind of sneaker drops, any kind of thing where you had this mismatch in supply and demand. You had this horrible consumer experience where people were waiting for multiple hours. They were, treated, I think, not with the respect that some of these fans of the brand should be given. And on the consumer side, sorry, on the vendor side,
Yeah.
knowing how hard it is to run any kind of experience like this. You as a small brand can find yourself in a situation where you have millions of people showing up all at once. Your site crashes, you get bots and bad actors coming in trying to scam your site, and you end up frustrating your biggest fans in the moment that you should be shining. You
Yeah.
cause them massive frustration. So wanting to address that problem for the fans.
Wow. As you're talking about Ticketmaster, my own experience around that, and it seemed to have got worse since the pandemic. And whether it be Ticketmaster or Ticketek in here in Australia,
Mm.
um, trying to get access to somebody to talk to
Right.
solve a problem. I had like Boxing Day test, classic example. Trying to get tickets. My father-in-law's a cricket nut. He gets tickets allocated because he's an umpire.
Mm.
He didn't have a ticket tech account. Anyway, could never speak to anybody. And
Yeah,
it's just nuts. Do actually Ticket Tech or Ticketmaster actually have people working for them other than
I mean,
engineering?
clearly not enough. I think they just have overwhelming problems upstream,
Yeah.
which means that people are probably kept way too busy
Mm.
downstream. I mean, Ticketmaster, it has its fair share of people been disgruntled with them, to put it mildly, I think.
Yeah.
They're definitely not winning any categories for customer satisfaction for sure. And
So,
you can see why. Like it's
yeah.
a multiple decades old. It's a dated platform that just doesn't deal with these kind of events. And if you're someone like a Taylor Swift and even a pre-sale for Taylor Swift
Yeah.
came to a grinding halt and really angered the fans. So, these are companies that are struggling with the day-to-day of running these kind of events, and we all feel it. Like
Yeah.
it's not evolved at all in the last couple of decades.
So with like from a consumer point of view, a big behemoth like Ticketmaster, global organization, and I understand the law of scarcity because it's a law of, hopefully we can create FOMO, so we force people to get into it. But you've
Right.
got to marry that up with a customer experience that ultimately the artist or the vendor is going to have a brand reputation either enhanced or tarnished based on that experience. Do these organizations utilize like competition as a way of dry, hey, it's all good. If it goes down, well, we'll say, well, sorry, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. What's there? Is there some sort of balancing act they typically have?
Yeah, I think there's a balancing act that just internally around addressing some of these issues, because, it's not a surprise when it happens.
Yeah,
It wasn't really a surprise that when Taylor Swift goes on sale, that things go badly. It's
yeah,
not a surprise that when Oasis goes on sale, things go badly. And I think there is that calculus of, how much can we anger the fans before they go somewhere else, and can they go somewhere else?
mm,
And with Ticketmaster especially, you rarely can go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely, the calculus that they have. I would say that when you make yourself such a huge target, then you're going to get a bunch of smaller companies like Rival that are trying to upend you. And that's
Mm.
not a situation that you want to find yourself where people have so much loathing for the platform that they want to, they actively want to see you replaced. Like that's
Yes.
not a situation that anyone should be in. And the same is true for artists. Like they know that when they put things on sale, they're probably going to anger a bunch of their fans. Like
Mm.
that's not where Taylor Swift wants to be. And you can
No.
see that in the reaction from Taylor Swift and Taylor Swift people is like they said it was going to go well, it did not, and we really apologize to our fans.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is when you create scarcity, there is some amount of leeway that you get with the fans, like they're willing to put up with a little bit.
Mm.
But if you have these events multiple times, and like, especially if you're a brand and you're responsible for this on sale,
Mm.
people will abandon you.
Yeah.
And you see that with Nike, especially. Like they have a 20% trust rating for their sneakers app, declining sales. Like they have just kind of exhausted people's goodwill with their drops. And you see that in the drop in sales that they've had through those kind of on sales.
Wow. Because you'd think that these organizations would be doing whatever they could to make it easier, or at least plan. Now, if that means extra server space, or at least, I mean, the thing that really annoys me, Michael, is like I'm an AFL fan, so I like AFL footy.
Mm.
Now, my team is not going to be anywhere near the finals this year, but when they were in the finals, getting access to tickets as a member of the football club, you get
Mm.
priority access. But then even with that, you get access to the portal, but it's got this little timer that goes, and it says you've got
Yeah.
like 9 minutes. And if the world the circle of death comes on, right, that timer doesn't stop. And you can
Uh-huh.
get to the stage where you get your tickets and you go into the transaction, you start your transaction, and all of a sudden, sorry, the timer's out. You're
Yeah.
back to the square one.
It's a
Come
brutal
on.
experience. Yeah, when we were talking to VCs about this, one of the examples we gave was Disney's seasonal ticket sales. And they have a message on their seasonal sale. This happens every year. And it says, you may be in line for longer than 24 hours. It's important that you don't close your browser and that you're there just in case that we do get through to you. Like
Yes.
that's these are people spending thousands of dollars, all right, repeat visits to
Yeah.
Disney. Like you should not be treating your most ardent fans like this.
No.
And I think one of the things we've wanted to do at Fanfare is not just help brands run a successful drop, but also you mentioned loyalty,
Mm.
like providing exclusive access to people who've maybe tried and failed multiple times, or moving you forward in line if we see that you are a repeat customer or you've made repeated attempts, even like you're just an
Yeah.
unlucky customer, then we can do things to try and reward your time and effort with that brand and not leave you out in the cold. Because, like I say, if you frustrate people multiple times, they will leave.
Mm.
It doesn't matter how much goodwill you've built up with them, they will eventually give up on you.
They
So
will.
just trying to find ways that you can, foster that fandom with these brands. It's such a powerful model, I think. And we
Mm.
can talk to the $200 cookies and the other on sales that are kind of even more strange than that. But this is a really powerful model, especially now with social media and the ability to build an audience around a brand.
Yeah.
But we see people kind of not really fully capitalizing on those events that they create.
So with that, you're at Ticketmaster as part of Rival, and then you obviously started Fanfare in 2021.
Hmm.
What was there a specific thing? Was it the frustration you were seeing that perhaps you could see a better way that the organization at the time wasn't giving, I guess, credit to that, or was there a specific thing you said, hey, we can do things better, that was the catalyst for starting Fanfare, and what then makes Fanfare different? I mean, you shared a little bit now, but what else makes Fanfare different?
Yeah, I think it was seeing that frustration from both sides. Like everyone has felt that frustration in ticketing.
Mm,
And as we explored what we could do there, because it almost feels like this is just the way it is, right?
mm,
It's like a tax you have to pay when you go to live events. And then as you explore it, you're like, this doesn't have to be this way. I can provide information up front. I can have a real loyalty program that rewards people's time and effort, moves people forward. Like there's all kinds of things you can do in that moment. And
Mm,
there's all kinds of information that you can gather about the people who are waiting. Like, what are you interested in seeing next? What
hmm
kind of price point are you interested in? Which dates are available for you? Like all kinds of things you can do up front and after the fact that just we weren't doing.
mm,
And then coming out of ticketing, like I say, just seeing, an aspiring sneakerhead. I have a growing collection myself, but it's a really infuriating process to buy some of these things. It's just, yeah, it's just pain. There doesn't need to be that pain. And, like the Switch 2 launch happened a few weeks ago. There's, it's an expectation that these things are going to fail.
yeah.
And then just knowing that it doesn't have to be that way. Like we built
Mm,
something to deal with this at Rival, and that's the origin story for me with Fanfare. I think what makes Fanfare different is, like this problem has existed for a long time, and like the feeling that scarcity drives sales and loyalty over time, like that's just innate to human beings. Like that's
yeah.
not something we can ever turn off. And I mean, I think trying to address it's a little, I'm reinforcing a stereotype, I think, by being British and obsessed by queuing, but it it really is a solvable problem. It's really something that we can do better with. And like I say, I see this model evolving and more brands using celebrities, using influencers to drive demand for
Yeah.
their products. And Gen Z especially, like they are huge fans of brands, right? They are connected to the brands that they love. And that's a huge shift. And I feel like tapping into that and allowing brands to benefit from that, I think is what was important to me.
And if for Gen Z, for example, who is really attached to a certain brand, whether it be bathwater infused soap or
That's
$200
right.
cookies,
That's right.
because I'm interested in like the alignment between sales, the marketing, the competitive advantage, but also the customer experience. Because it's one thing to have an organization that says, "Hey, we've got this fantastic product. We want to use the law of scarcity in order to drive demand and almost the fear of missing out. So we can build some hype around that. But
Hmm.
even with that, you still want to be able to provide a customer experience that can enhance the ability or the feeling that the buying experience was positive to the point where I'd like to come back and re-engage with future products or an updated product and stuff like that. So what are some of the things that because you'd think that, and look, hey, this I'll just be brutally honest. It sounds like common sense, doesn't it?
That's right.
Why
Uh-huh.
why is it a common practice?
Yep.
Um, so why is it firstly that organizations don't go down this path? And what are some things that we can do or you're working on in relation to I guess balancing up the scarcity with the customer experience so that you find that balance.
Yeah, I think it's if you take a brand that's really been successful with this, I think Stanley is a great example where they brought people in who were very familiar with that model, with the drop model. So people from Crocs, for example, coming in and thinking about this as structuring campaigns around these kind of viral moments and really just readying themselves for that.
Mm,
Because you're not really sure. Like you can manufacture some things, but you have to be ready when it happens to be able to capture the viral moment. And
mm,
and I think Stanley is a great example where, they have products, they have a halo product that they want to push to people to be able to bring people into the brand and get some recognition for the brand. And just finding like, whether it's someone who has their car set on fire and the only thing that survives is a Stanley quencher, for example, like really going after those moments
yeah,
and really like tripling down on those moments to drive people in and continuing with that. So, building wait lists for these products, like really understanding how much demand you have so that you can make sure that you have some element of scarcity in there.
yeah,
Because, there's nothing worse than having something, you drive a lot of traffic or you drive a lot of hype to a particular thing and then it kind of just falls flat and there is no scarcity and people feel like they're just everywhere. Like
Yeah.
that's not what you want. So you really have to understand demand
Mm.
and control supply so that you keep that FOMO going. Um, but then I would say, like, why don't brands do this? It's really painful. Streetwear and footwear, I think, really lead the pack on this, but it doesn't take you very long to look on Instagram or Twitter or wherever to find failed drops and failed
Mm.
launches because you bring in more demand than you expect. The platform underneath you just is not set up to deal with that kind of on sale. Even something like a Shopify, you'll find
Mm.
yourself in a bad place pretty quickly, and you end up having to firefight things in that moment. So some of the brands that we work with, they talk about like turning off payment methods just to get through the moment. Like I'm going
Mm.
to turn off PayPal or I'm going to turn off whatever it is just to try and limit how many bots are coming in or perceived bots are coming in. And it's pain. So
Yeah.
you run them infrequently because there's so much coordination and firefighting that has to happen. And with fanfare, the intent is you choreograph these things, or we orchestrate them for you, and you don't have to deal with these horrible firefighting moments because we scale up, we deal with that traffic, we put you in, a holding place that's engaging, has interesting things in there, and then after the fact that we can reach out to people to, bring them back into the next launch. If there's, more stock coming soon, we can let you know, we can keep your place in line. Or maybe if you failed 5 times, we bring you into an exclusive drop the next time.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Um, and you also talk a lot about story and how we use story as a not so much just as a marketing ploy, but to enhance the brand. And
Yeah.
when you've got celebrities that are linked to that and they've got credibility, and you wrap a story around that that people want to be a part of, it builds the I guess the demand and the loyalty ahead of time. How do we match that with I guess the customer experience? So you mentioned you can ramp up and ramp down the importance of, I guess, the elevation of the sales through the story. But again, managing, because it must be pretty difficult to manage up and down based on demand. Because I'm sure there's a lot of organizations that have a really famous celebrity
Right.
that
Hmm.
like is a huge spike. And how do we manage that without completely destroying destroying the
Yeah.
brand because nobody can get through?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've built fanfare. Like I say, I have an engineering background through Salesforce Optimizely and then Rival. Like we've built this from the ground up to scale up quickly to deal with those spikes because it's a really difficult technical problem to address that kind of spike in traffic.
Mm,
And even established platforms, even your Ticketmasters, your Best Buys, your Shopifys, they don't deal well with those moments.
yeah.
So that's, I think, one aspect to it. And I think you really need to think about this. Like these platforms are set up for the general case, general on sales, for example. And these particular events, like they a platform like Shopify doesn't really like you running events like this through it because they get a ton of traffic that they're paying for and they're not getting a ton of sales, right?
Mm,
Maybe you're selling 10 of a thing, but they're seeing like tens of millions of requests coming through.
yeah.
Like they're not taking much money for that. So there's not really a huge incentive for them to fix that problem.
Mm,
Whereas like I see that as like a huge opportunity missed. I think there's a ton of interesting data in the 10 million people that show up that didn't manage to convert. There's a
mm,
huge amount of value in that data. And we've actually done proof of concepts where we try and be engaging during that waiting period and even through to things like community chat, live streaming. So if you have Rihanna as a celebrity for your brand, you can
yeah.
bring Rihanna in to an experience for her, subscribers, for
Hmm.
example, and make just the on sale an experience. So even if you're unlucky in that moment, you still feel like your time in that queue was worth it.
Mm. It's fascinating. I wanted to ask in relation to, like we talked before we press record, around unique selling propositions or unique selling or unique value props. Um, in the work that you do with Fanfare, obviously you're creating I guess, the immersive experience and trying to marry up the demand and supply and the customer experience through through the buying cycle.
Hmm.
How much do you get involved in working with brands on helping them really tell a story, but also differentiate themselves in the marketplace? Because I'm sure that every single brand on the planet believes, and they have to, that they've got the best products that's market leading, right? But that's not necessarily matched by what the customer ends up thinking. So, what are some thoughts you have around that? Because that would no doubt have a part to play in what sort of campaigns are run and how you actually bring it to market and how you actually create demand and the experience through the buying cycle.
Yeah, I really think moments like this are a way that you can differentiate. You can do something a little unique. You can do something a little riskier, because you're not filling your warehouse with tens of thousands of this thing. Like maybe it's a limited edition, maybe it's a collaboration, and you can do a limited sale of that thing. And I mean, we were talking about this before. There's a brand here in LA called Dr. Squatch that sells soap. And the soap that they sold a few weeks ago was a collaboration with Sydney Sweeney, and it was a bath soap that was infused with her bath water, which that's right. Uh, but
Has she
it
got a
was a
big bath?
viral. Yeah, that's right. That's right. The idea of a bathwater, I think it was. But there was a
The
ton of
idea.
really fun memes. People lighting candles before jumping in the bath with the Sydney Sweeney bathwater soap. But it was an interesting, confounding, strange, awkward, fun. I think humor is
Mm,
an underrated tool in these tool belts for these brands. Do something that's really different,
yeah,
even like a little risky if it's something that's going to bring attention to the brand and you can bring people into those brands. For the brands that we work with, we see almost a five times increase in people browsing the rest of the catalog if they come in through some Halo product. So if you're selling Sydney Sweeney's bathwater, like people will stay around, they will figure out what the brand is actually about, and they will spend
yeah.
more money with you. So it's a really interesting strategy. And like I say, you can de-risk it by using something like Fanfare. But I think successful brands are finding interesting ways to separate themselves just from the noise. Especially now, I see, the standards, that the bar has been raised on how well brands can market, how well brands can push things out on these platforms. And the ones that are successful are the ones that do things that are a little quirky, a little
Mm.
spiky, a little uncomfortable. So that's, I think, where the brands who have like strong narrative and a strong ability to tell a story really can capitalize on this model.
And are those ones the brands that can identify truly what makes them different, and they're not like I'm just like Ticketek, only more effective, or I'm just like um Taylor Swift, but I'm a male, or whatever that happens to be, because there's a lot of Me
Mhm.
Too out there. Um, what actually makes us unique? That's going to create a little bit of disruption in the marketplace, maybe a little bit of a pattern interrupt in the marketplace to at least
Mhm.
invoke some intrigue or some curiosity that people are wanting to at least explore the offer or explore the product or the service.
Absolutely. And like I say, if you're doing this as a limited edition drop, then you're limiting the impact if it's unsuccessful,
Mm,
right? You can ease the impact on those things. And, I think there's some great examples out there. Mischief here is a great example. They kind of build anticipation doing more artistic projects, and then they will mix those in with some kind of streetwear, footwear on sale. After they've kind of built that intrigue using all kinds of different things. Like they've done things that I think they almost feel antagonistic to the people applying for these drops. They've done drops where people will put their phone numbers in and they don't tell you what they're using them for. and then in a subsequent drop they used them for robocalling. Like that's not something that people wanted, but it got people interested, and it's a really fascinating project. So there's definitely scope out there for people to kind of learn from some of these brands. We've tried to, on our blog, go together and pull some of these examples together so people can see what some of these brands are doing. But I mean, it's an interesting time, and I think it's a really interesting way to, build awareness for your brand internationally too. I think these things can, span boundaries like they couldn't 10, 20, 30 years ago.
And is the work that you do and a lot of the organizations and brands you work with tend to be more like the business to the consumer in terms of mass market, or can this also apply to the business to business market where the same sort of thing happens? We want to create differentiation in the marketplace. We want to invoke some sort of curiosity or intrigue that leads an organization to want to know how to actually better engage with you or be interested in your product, whether that be an AI function or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we've done some things around just waitlists for products and services, because it's the same problem. Like you want to build intrigue and interest in a particular thing, and you want to treat people with, like you want to give them transparency in that process. You want to treat them with respect through that
Yeah,
process. So it's really the same. Like anywhere cues conform, I think is a good use for us. Our focus initially has been on the people really fighting fires with streetwear and footwear drops. But yeah, I really think that anywhere a queue or even a group of people can form is an interesting
yeah.
use of our platform.
Because it's always an age-old challenge to try and figure out as a marketer or as an organization trying to sell a product, what's going to make us different and what's going to be the thing that's going to give us the step change to really dominate a marketplace or to take a bigger share of the wallet of the addressable market and stuff like that. Um, I love if you're able to, if you can recall, without maybe giving the brand names, I'd love to talk about some failures that you've seen or experienced, the ones that have done it
Uh,
really poorly, but also the ones that have done it really well, that just give people a bit of a sense of, well, you can be quirky, you can be authentic, you can be ethical, and still be a little bit more, a little bit frivolous, if you like.
yeah, I mean there are countless examples of things that have gone poorly, especially in real life, actually. So this is an area we're going to be moving into, these in real life communal events. And there's an example of Kaisenet is an influencer who ran a PS5 drop
Hmm.
in Manhattan, I think around a year ago. But essentially, it was just letting people know online that he's going to be driving through a particular part of Manhattan, just giving away PS5s. And what happened was a ton of people showed up,
Yeah.
and they ended up just driving an SUV at high speed through the streets of Manhattan, throwing PS5s off the back,
Whoa.
and that caused all kinds of security problems. The police came in, they arrested the person responsible. So that's an example of, a moment for Sony. They were trying to create something that was interesting to that community and it just goes very badly wrong.
Yeah.
Um, so that those are examples, I think, of things going wrong. We've definitely had online drops where people have kind of expected some volume of traffic and it just is wildly successful. But the eventual outcome has been we are never doing this again. Like bots came in, they destroyed our landing page, they destroyed our site. We were dealing with this for weeks because we had to try and claw back sales that went to bots. We had to claw these things back and give them to real fans. And if we're going to sell things in future, we're just going to do it at a store and we're not going to do this
Mm,
kind of thing again. So those are really, I think, important examples of what not to do. Like you really have to have some kind of structure around this and expect things to go viral and have some serious traffic attached with these. And I think things that have gone well, yeah, I think we worked with one brand on an in real life experience where they've had issues before where they had lines around the block. And again, like security issues, police been involved and shutting things down early.
Mm.
just because so much anticipation and excitement for the brand just turns into a problem. And we came in and we had this kind of appointment system where people could scan in, they could pick a time to come back, and they could go off and do whatever it is they want to do, and then come back when their time slot is up. So you have some amount of FOMO because you can see a line, but it doesn't get out of control.
Yeah.
And we were able to give them like peace of mind. We could give them like a reasonable expectation, like how many people are going to show up, and we could avoid the gnarly issues that they were facing around security. So I think that's a good example where we turned something that was painful for them into something that was really easy for them to manage and still like ticked all the boxes in terms of like having some line outside the store, but not just complete chaos outside the store.
Because when you were talking, I'm just reminded of when Apple release a new product or a new line of a product. They've
Yep.
got people lining all up, and I'm thinking, and I actually myself don't understand the psychology because 2 days later you can just walk into the store and get the product anyway. What is the advantage about getting it first?
Yeah, I mean, you can't turn this off in us, right? It's we all want what's difficult to get.
Yeah,
It's a real strong driver in us. But yeah, like if you could churn that moment, we have like 3 or 4 blocks worth of lines into like a collective moment where you have people pointing their phone up to something, joining a drop, and then finding out in that moment if they've been successful or not. It's a way more compelling experience
yeah,
than just camping out for
yeah.
7 or 8 hours. Like that's a painful experience to try and get something. So again, there are ways of doing these things right, and I think we're still not doing it. I think to maximally benefit the people attending these things.
Well, I remember back in the day, if we wanted to get tickets to a concert before the internet, you had to line up. And
Yep.
in order to get there, there were people that would literally camp out for days so they could be
Hmm.
first in line to get tickets to, I don't know, Michael Jackson or
Yeah.
Van Halen or something. It was
Yeah,
mad.
we still see it here. There's places down Fairfax. You'll see people camping out, waiting for whatever it is to go on sale. And I think it's great that people have that amount of fandom that they're willing to
Mm,
do that. But I think there are ways of like meeting them in that fandom and really elevating it and not have it be something where people camp out overnight.
yeah,
I think to live events, like to tie it all together, if you could launch something in a stadium filled with 60,000 fans and launch something just exclusively to the people attending that event and have
yeah,
it be this, again, like communal moment where everyone finds out in that moment, like that's a really cool experience. Like
yeah, it
you're
is.
basically doing the same thing,
Yeah,
but you've not inflicted a ton of pain on people to
yeah.
try and get there. So again, I think there's ways of doing these things right.
Nice, nice. So I do want to talk about the example that you shared before we press record about the cookies.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
the thing here is it's the balance between, I guess, agitating your customers to the point where they just want more of it, and dare I say, pissing your customers off so they don't come
Yeah.
back again,
Uh-huh.
right? You were talking about a place that has cookies that sell for like $200, and they're in a beautifully packaged but they kind of agitate the customer. So can you talk through that as a what's their strategy and has it has it become almost exclusive? This is how they are, that people want to be part of that and they attract customers who like to be agitated?
Yeah, I think it's a mixed bag of things. So these cookies are, like you say, like they're incredibly well packaged. They have this very luxurious feeling menu. They have these syringes filled with sauces. Like they're incredibly well packaged. And they make sure that the unboxing videos that people have and the experiences that they go through are things that like really get people on social media. So they have people showing how amazing it is to receive some of these things, how amazing and exclusive it feels to open the box and have these cookies revealed. So that's the hook. And then every Monday these things go on sale and they have very limited numbers of them being pushed out. So what the kind of experience that people go through is they try repeatedly, they keep going, they keep going, they keep going. And like you say, they've built up this kind of antagonistic relationship with their customers where people will, they'll complain through DMs. They'll kind of chick talk them on social media. And what you'll see is the brand just taking those DMs and taking those messages and reposting them. Like, I know, like you didn't get them, like they're sold out. Like you're gonna have to try harder or whatever it is.
Try harder next
Try
time.
harder, like
Get on
exactly.
earlier.
Exactly. So they're building up mystique around the brand and this kind of feeling of exclusivity around the products they have. Just with kind of those two kind of pillars of that strategy is like just really pushing the fact that people rarely get these things and seeing people really be frustrated in that process, but also showing how amazing it is when people do succeed. So yeah, it's an amazing brand. I've managed to get those cookies once. They were delicious and they were fantastic, and we reposted. But yeah, it's hard to get those things.
Well, it makes you, because at the end of the day, it's a cookie.
It's a cookie.
It's a
It's a
cookie.
cookie. It's a good cookie. I'm not sure $200 worth of cookie, but it's kind of more than that, right? You're
Yeah.
you're kind of buying into an experience, right? You're kind of buying into a community.
Mm.
And I think the more that brands can try and foster that, like that feeling of fandom and that you were successful when so many people failed, I think that's a really interesting characteristic that you're kind of tapping into.
Because given that a lot of the products that we've talked about today, at the end of the day, they can be quite well considered to be commoditized products, cookies, sneakers, streetwear, right?
Yeah.
And these are all organizations that are always looking for what's the edge, what makes them different, what's going to make somebody who has discretionary spend of whatever the $500, $1,000, whatever. Why are they going to want to spend money on my sneakers or my streetwear as compared to somebody else? Um, in the work that you're doing and you get involved in a lot of the, I guess, the brand work and the fan creation and stuff like that. Looking into the future, um, how do you think this is going to evolve? Do you think more and more organizations are going to be looking for more quirky ways to interact with their customers, more agitated ways to almost piss their customers off as a way of attracting them because they've got this exclusivity? Um, or is there something going to be different that's gonna happen? Well, so what's the future look like? Because there's a lot of people listening to this that'll have products that they have to represent that um, they're in a commodity product, they're a commodity service. How do we differentiate? What do we do?
Yeah, I think there's almost an expectation from this upcoming generation that they want to be more engaged with the brand, they want to feel more attached, and they want to feel closer to that brand. So I think you're going to see more and more brands trying to create these moments where they can develop that fandom with their customers. And I think it's a really, really powerful model. Once you've established that, once you've built this loyal group of people who can go out and be advocates for the brand too.
Mm,
Like these people you'll see them out wearing their Travis Scott dunks. And like if you're slightly in the know, like what pains they went through to get them, you know that they know. And I think that's really, really captivates people and is really something I see more and more brands going after. So yeah, I think that's absolutely a way that you can differentiate yourself. I think the quirky, spiky, funny, like just I think if you do things that are by the numbers, realize that that's what everyone else is doing, and you're gonna just get lost. You're gonna get lost on social media. You're gonna get lost just in the sea of everyone doing the same thing. So, if you can find that ambassador, find that influencer, find that person, find that story that's going to be compelling to people
mm,
and really get behind it. I think that's a really important thing to do for brands going forward.
nice. And in terms of fanfare, you've been building it since 2021, and you've it just said that you've had the last week or so pumping out a lot of work and you're in a busy,
Uh-huh.
busy time. What's the future? for fanfare? What's the vision for you?
Yeah, I think the vision for us, like we are, I mentioned the in real life aspects. I think for us, really thinking about these on sales as just a small part of a larger campaign and really pushing out into those areas. So not just taking on the on sale, but thinking about how you announce these things, how you message people, how you reach people. Like this is all a coordinated effort.
Mm,
And the data that feeds into your campaign upstream is helpful downstream when you come to the on sale and even beyond the on sale. Like finding
yeah.
out who those people are who turned up but weren't successful is a really important thing to kind of connect back to the next on sale. So that's the vision for this is just really allowing brands to use this model more and more and pushing out into things like in real life and more experiential commerce.
Yeah.
So that's I'm sure we'll come back around to live event ticketing eventually. It's something it's always going to bother me until it's fixed. But for now, just finding brands that really can kind of launch themselves using this kind of model.
Well, as you mentioned, the experiential commerce, I often talk to sales leaders and teams about the fact that the sale doesn't actually begin until after the sale is made. So, as you were talking
Mm.
about downstream, experiential live event type stuff, it's recognizing from a brand perspective, okay, you've got a captive audience, they've already made one purchase, but what's the experience now you're going to create which will
Right.
incentivize them to keep making purchases, right? So what's your customer life cycle look like? What's the experience you want to create for your customers that leads them to the next step or the next evolution of level of interest you want to create for them?
Absolutely. And if you can know more about those people, if you can know that they're interested in certain things or they provide you with some feedback when you have that captive audience waiting to get into an on sale and you can ask them questions and find out more from them,
Yeah.
that's really important information to then try and tie things together downstream.
Yes.
And I think fandom is such a powerful thing. And if you can really get people interested in your brand and really invested in it, then they will keep coming back.
Mm.
But you need to make sure that you're treating them well, that you're fostering these and like these are really important customers that you shouldn't squander their time and effort. So it's a really it's a really challenging thing, but I think it's the brands I see successful are wildly successful with this.
Yeah, because they treat their customers as not just customers, but probably as a part of their family, part of their tribe. And everybody wants to belong to a tribe, right? So
Absolutely.
if you're wearing an exclusive brand or you're bathing in an exclusive soap or you're eating exclusive cookies, you feel
That's
part of an
right.
exclusive group, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. You walk past someone, you get that faint whiff of Sydney Sweeney's bathwater. You
That's
know
right.
that they spent £2,000 on a bar of soap.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's absolutely, absolutely. It is, and I think not just kind of commoditized items, but we see this around like very high-end luxury items. Because
Mm,
again, like if you know, you know. We've seen people with like, five-figure coffee grinders
yeah,
who, these things go on sale very infrequently, but when they do, the process is a complete mess.
yeah,
That's not how you treat people who are spending like $10,000 on a luxury item, right? You want to treat them with respect. So
yes.
I think not just commodity items, but anything like where you have this scarcity is a real good fit for us.
Lovely, lovely. So as we bring this to a close, if there's somebody listening to this that's thinking, man, how do I differentiate myself? If you were sitting in front of a person who had a product or a service, irrespective of what that product or service was, and they had no idea. They've just been used to doing things in the old traditional way in terms of engaging customers, doing some branding, doing some marketing, doing letter drops, for example. All right.
Mhm.
What's the first thing you'd get them to start thinking about as, I guess, a catalyst for moving in a different direction?
Yeah, I mean, I think trying to find that authentic part of the story that you can tell about yourself or your brand. Like if there's something that makes you special and
Mm,
unique and like really trying to uncover what that is. And it could be that sense of community. We have a brand out in Denver, Colorado, where they have very It's a small group of customers, but they're avid, fervent fans of the brand, and they will join like a wait list that lasts up until like January, February of next year
Wow.
just to get access to the store. So like finding out what that unique thing is really important. And I think also if you can find examples in your industry of people doing interesting things. Like there are countless examples, I think, in all kinds of different categories. So I definitely recommend people go and try and seek those out and see what interesting structures of campaigns people are following. And one thing that I absolutely feel is like we're only scratching the surface on is the use of people who have some large following online, some large group of people who trust them and
Yeah.
trust the message they're putting out. Not just kind of the Kim Kardashians of the world, but there is a bunch of athletes and like real strong advocates for all kinds of different brands who have millions of followers
Mm.
that are been massively underutilized, I think. So I would
Yeah.
definitely recommend just seeking those out. We've tried to bring in a bunch of those onto the blog. So if people want to seek out those examples, please head there or reach out to me, and I'll happily talk your ear off about all kinds of different on sales that I've seen,
Including soap.
including and especially soap.
Especially
Yeah,
soap.
that's a really, really interesting one. It came out of left field for me, and I've seen some quirky drops in my time. And yeah, I mean, it wildly successful. Their site fell over. They sold out in 60 seconds.
60
And
seconds. Wow.
yeah, and those soaps are going on eBay for £2,000 right now. So wildly successful, incredible drop, and they've just been pushing out products since then. So, bringing people
Unbelievable.
into the brand and really pushing out after it.
Wow. Wow. All right. So with that said, you mentioned going onto your blog, and connecting with you. Where's the best place for people to do those things, my friend? Where do they get
Yeah,
where do you hang out?
I mean, for my sins, I hang out on LinkedIn far too often. So you can absolutely reach out to me on LinkedIn at any time of day. I'll usually be on there somewhere. Or just fanfare.io. Our blog is filled with content right now, especially around these kind of drops. So please reach out there. And we do have a set of case studies that you can go to. If you go to /playbook, you can grab our kind of 5-step guide to running an event like this.
Okay.
But yeah, please reach out. I'm always happy to talk drops with people.
Awesome. Mate, I'll put that in the show notes, and encourage people to connect with you and also go to the website. So, hey, can
Perfect.
I can I thank you on a Thursday afternoon, the day before in the US, before the holiday, the 4th of July holiday. It's
Uh-huh.
been a great privilege speaking with you, and mate, all the best in
Thank
expanding
you.
fanfare. And if you ever come up with a solution to solve the ticketing issues of of Ticketmaster, mate,
Yeah, we
I'm
tried.
your first customer.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean that was something everyone coming into Rival felt the same. Like, really? We still doing this? But yeah, I appreciate it. That was great. And yeah, I need to go get my Union Jack outside for Independence Day. So
Awesome, mate. Hey, it's been a privilege having you on the podcast.
yeah,
Have
great
a
chatting.
fantastic rest of the week.
You too. Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it. But also, if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com, and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.